Hey everyone, I'm Joanna.
And I'm Jenny.
And this is Hyphenated, the podcast about living in the hyphen. You know, Jenny, 2 weeks ago, I had the first audition I've had in a pretty long time. And I killed it. I was like, oh my God, this is the best audition I've ever done in my life. Whatever. And I was with one of my friends and she was like, oh my God, that means that you're going to get it. And I was like, no, that's not at all how that works. But then I let her convince me that, like, since I did such a good audition, like, I must get it. Like, that's just how it works. And obviously I did not. And I'm so jaded that it doesn't hurt. Like, it's like a little bit, it stings a little bit, but it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. There's been opportunities that have come my way. They're not all acting related. Some have been TV writing and stuff like that. I guess I've been more confident in terms of some TV writing interviews where I'm like, dude, I know this show like the back of my hand. Like, I check all the boxes. I met with the showrunners, and then I don't get it, and then I cry. Like, and then I'll spend like a full 24 hours feeling like ass, and then the next day I go into like ADHD hyperdrive mode, which is, you know, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna, you know, take over the world kind of shit. But with acting, yeah, I'm more jaded like you. Mm-hmm. Acting especially, there's really no telling, because you could look like someone's ex-girlfriend and they're like, fuck that bitch, I don't want her on my show because she looks like my ex. Or you're just not the right fit, you're not the right height, you don't have the right chemistry with the other actor. It could be 1,000 things, and you probably did kill it. What I would say you did is that you booked the room. That's
nice to say. That, like, the casting director was like, hey, she's not bad. Maybe there's a role
But
in the
that
future.
is how it happens, you know.
Yeah.
That you hear that all the time, that casting houses take note of you, especially if they keep seeing you, and then they're like, oh, like, she's good, let's bring her in for this. So you never know. But that's why they always say book the room, don't try to book the role.
It's funny how casting is sort of like how children pick their friends. Like, I'll ask my nephews and nieces, like, oh, why isn't that person your friend? And they're like, I don't like that she likes yellow. And it's like, that seems like not enough of a reason to dismiss little Maria here. And that's how casting works. It's like, oh my God, she was so good, but like, she's 5'9" and we need a 5'8".
Or she needs more followers.
She needs more followers.
Or she has too many followers. We don't want an influencer. Never mind the fact that we're both trained actors.
It's so fickle and exhausting. And my friends that are only actors, that they're just actors, I think that they're the strongest people I've ever met in my life. Because, like, the job is going out and auditioning. Once they book, that's like, all right, they stop working. They go do what they love. But they're auditioning like 4 or 5 times a week. I audition maybe 4 or 5 times a month. Like, that's not a comparison, you know?
That's still a lot.
It is. And
I guess for me, because I don't audition really. I just do voice auditions.
I have a friend called Alan. He's booked really big stuff. He was on Orange is the New Black, and I was really getting really depressed because I just, like, have not booked anything through an audition. Like, the stuff I've booked has been because people know my content and they just put me in something.
Dude, same.
And I did, like, I don't know, maybe 30 auditions, and we went out for lunch, and I was like, I don't know how you do it. And then he said, when you finish auditioning and you walk out that door, you do not think about it again.
You can't. You
put it in the past. And I think that's something cool to do in life.
Yeah.
You know, you went into an interview, or you went on a date and it didn't go as well as you planned, or all of these things. Just keep looking forward. It's so much easier said than done. I sound like a fortune cookie because I don't do that.
Bro, I mean, it's true. I mean, it is the best advice. Do what you can to perform an incredible audition and walk away from it, because at the end of the day, I think psychologically you do have to remind yourself it's not about your talent. A lot of the time it's not. You could be amazing, but there's, like, again, I don't like yellow, and that's enough for them to say no. Or, like, a lot of times what even that's happened to me is you're not a big enough name.
Yeah, no, of course.
So it's like, oh, you're perfect for the role, but you're not a big enough name. You don't have enough credits. You haven't had enough experience with these types of roles on television, or, you know. So it makes sense to kind of do your fucking best and walk away from it.
Let's put that on a bumper sticker. Do your best and walk away.
Do your best and walk away.
Do your best and walk away.
I think, again, where it's really gotten to me, where I end up in a puddle of tears and misery for a full 24 hours. It's kind of like a fucking stomach bug or something. It's usually times where I've been sent on auditions because the showrunner was a fan of my videos. That's where it gets in my head really badly because I'm like, okay, Jenny, you can't fuck this up. These people literally approached your manager because they know who you are and they like your videos. And so you have a leg up here. And then when I don't book those, it feels like you're almost like at the end of the finish line and you're super ahead of everyone else because you have all these extra things going for you, and then you trip on your face and everyone passes you. That feels worse than me just going on a random audition, no one knows me, and I don't book it. I'm like, that's showbiz, baby.
Yeah.
But when people know you and they want to put you in the show, y después it ends up not working out, that's more painful for me.
Yo, the audition I fucked up the hardest at, and I fucked up many auditions. Like
Same.
The first audition I was ever at, it was for one line for Kimmy Schmidt, and it was just one line. It was like, "What are you doing here?" And in the waiting room, I was so nervous. And in the waiting room, it was all these beautiful models and me, and I'm like, I'm very confused with what the casting call said and why I'm here. I didn't book it. Spoiler alert, but. I didn't feel bad I didn't book it because I was like, clearly this is not a good fit. But then I did an audition for literally what I did in Joanna Rants, which is like straight to camera address. It's like having a point of view, having a perspective, reading from a teleprompter. And I wanted it so bad. And I was so convinced. I was like, I know how to do this. And I go in the waiting room and it's a bunch of my friends. And the door is so thin, you hear everything everyone's doing in the room. And that fucked me up.
Oh, eso sí te mata. No.
So I go in and it's almost like it's literally like I am, like I can't read. Like I'm trying to read the teleprompter and I'm so nervous. I'm like, and that's when in Rome. And the guy was like, are you okay? Do you need glasses?
Oh my God.
And then there was a song segment. Like I do that. And then I had to do like an original song. I couldn't look them in the eye and sing because I was so embarrassed. Y se me fue un gallo. I was like, what? Oh, ooh. And then I tried to make a joke about it and they were not having it. And they were like, please get out.
Joanna.
And I did like a walk of shame with all of the UCP people that were in the waiting room. Oh, man. That show didn't even get picked up.
Do you get nervous?
Oh, my God. I get so nervous because, like, we're in this industry because we want things so bad. Because if we didn't want him this bad, we'd be in fucking accounting. You know what I mean?
Like, I would be like working at a dog rescue in a farm in Wisconsin.
Exacto. Como que we are so... We put ourselves through the ringer to work, you know? Mm-hmm. So every time I get an audition request, I really want it, which I think is the problem.
Yeah.
I feel like all my friends that book are like, I didn't even want this job. I went in and I shot all the script and I walked away.
I can't release too much, but I recently booked a pilot for a hosting job. Everything happened kind of very quickly, and I didn't have time to prep, and I just fucking winged it, and I was like, The next day, they're like, oh my God, she was like the best, and I can't believe like how quick she was on her feet, and I'm like, what? Okay. Not that I fucked up, because the audition was me running the whole game with like a group of people on Zoom. So it's very true. It's a psychological mind fuck.
And it's so hard, right? Because as an actor, you're told, yo, you got to prep and you got to work hard. And then simultaneously, it's like, actually,
don't care.
Don't give a fuck. Because the moment you care, you won't book it. And the one time I booked a really, really, really big job was when I had a family reunion planned on a boat in Europe. And it was just 3 weeks out of that year that I was going to spend with my family and my grandpa. And guess when this fucking pilot shot?
Siempre pasa esa mierda, bro. Siempre pasa esa mierda.
Every time I want to book something, I just book a vacation.
It ruins your life.
It ruins my life.
It just ruins your You have to cancel your honeymoon. You have to cancel your friend's fucking baptism. You have to. Oh man, like you lose. You have to like cancel. Call American Airlines. Or I'll go say, you know say. That's why I take everything with a grain of salt. Like I see it as like, you know what? I booked this pilot. I was able to prove to myself that I can book something on my own. Again, these people didn't know me. I don't have any personal connections to them. They just saw my work. And that's cool. I'm going to take the opportunity. We're filming the pilot in Philadelphia. That's going to be fun.
It's gonna be
I've
so
never
fun.
been to Philly. Yeah, I'm going to take it step by step. of course it would be an amazing experience, but in my head I'm like, when are these 2 months, like where's that gonna land? Do I have to cancel any trips? Do I have to
it's so
what's
life
gonna happen?
life is so unpredictable. It was really refreshing talking to Justina Machado because this is an actress that's been in the game for years. She most recently did an animated role for the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, but she's been in everything. I mean, she was in One Day at a Time. She started her career in NYPD Blue. She's just really an eminence in as a Latina in Hollywood. And hearing her and her experience as an actor in Hollywood sort of gave me a little bit of peace. So, Jenny, you weren't able to join me, but I want to share with you my conversation with Justina Machado. Hello. How are you, Justina?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm like a huge fan of yours. I love you. I loved One Day at a Time, and I'm a Venezolana, Latina, even though I don't look it. So it's a real honor to interview you today. You have an incredibly prolific career. You've done it all pretty much. And I'm just curious, as a fellow actor myself, what was it like to come up as a Latina actor in the 90s and early 2000s?
I mean, I assume it's a lot like it is now. You know what I mean? It's still a struggle, and it's still more needs to be done. I think I was very naive. When you're very young, you're very naive, and which is a good thing. So otherwise, I don't know had I have gone left and done anything else. But I think it's such a long time ago that there are certain things I don't remember. And I hear it's kind of like childbirth. You forget about the pain.
Oh my gosh.
I've never had a child, but I'm sure there, of course there's a lot of trauma, I mean, I can tell you one thing that happened when I was 25 years old or 26 or something like that. And it was the 90s. And I had just done my first lead role in a pilot for Castle Rock and Fox. And it was called I Love Lupe. And I remember it tested very well and people really liked it. But the president at the time of Castle Rock called me and said, we don't think the world is ready for a Latino family. So that is something that was said. And I kind of said, okay, because, it was a different time and they were able to say things like that. And so that's what it was like, and that's how I can sum it up.
What's interesting is that he said that to you and then jump cut to a few years later and you're on One Day at a Time, which
is a few years later, girl. It's more like a long time. We're talking about 98. It's more like
a few years, just a few years. Come on.
Thank you for that. But then I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to do something like 6 Feet Under. That was incredibly iconic, and they were so respectful of Freddie and I. Freddie and I are both Puerto Rican. We're both from Chicago. They wrote for us. They didn't try to make us fit in a box, and that was the early 2000s. So, I had that experience. So it went back and forth, but most of the experiences were, well, we already have a Latina, or we already have a person of color, or, not even as many opportunities, quite frankly, as my peers that, were white. I didn't have as many opportunities. And I think that is definitely changing. It's just not really changing fast enough,
And, you really represent the concept of someone who is hyphenated. You are from Chicago, but you're Boricua, you're Puerto Rican. And how much of this sort of identity for you, were you always like, this is who I am fully, and this is what I'm going to be, and I'm unapologetic about it? Or was it sort of like a self-discovery for you?
I think it started off like, I think I've always been who I was unapologetically in front of people. But of course, you have your insecurities when you're by yourself. But pretty much I've always been who I am. And sometimes it didn't serve me, sometimes it wasn't the right thing to do. And that's what you learn from. But I'm still the same person. I'm just more gracious.
I think it's you describing being an actor, like you erase the trauma, like childbirth, because there's so many disappointments, right? Like And I think so few people know how disappointing it is to be in the entertainment space because they only see the magical parts of when you're succeeding. For you, has there ever been a moment where you were like, oh my God, I think this is what I've been seeking. Like, this is what I've been searching for. And all of this hard work all of this childbirth has been worth it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've had many of those moments, and the biggest moment was One Day at a Time, you know, because it's like not only was it an incredible show. I mean, it had everything you could imagine. It also really was a great representation of who we really are and what we're really like. And we not full of these ridiculous stereotypes, you know, or being seen through their gaze. This was our story being told through us by us. And guess what? It was super universal. It was a story about family, and people got it. So, you know, that is probably one of the proudest moments of my life, being a part of One Day at a Time.
And it was also very specific. Like you said, it didn't try to just be a Latino show. It is, you know, what is the Cuban American struggle? What does that mean? Like for
it's
you,
really
for
an
example,
immigrant struggle. It's an immigrant. You don't have to be Cuban American. I'm
No.
not Cuban. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, I remember being all over the world. I was in Greece. I was in Italy. I was like all over, and I would have people come to me and say, "Oh my God, we love One Day at a Time. This is like my family. This is so." It's just a really. It just resonated because it's a story that everybody can relate to if they come from an immigrant family.
Yeah, because it's real. Like I think that what I struggle a lot with sometimes when I'm, you know, consuming things that are supposedly from this perspective or that perspective, when it comes from a specific point of view, it feels real. Like it feels grounded. But when it tries to have broad appeal while having a quote unquote specific point of view, that's when it sort of fails.
Right. And I think people have seen that. I mean, the specificity and authenticity of a show is what makes you, I mean, everybody who watched, you know, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, everybody can relate to her walking around with that Windex.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, you know, as Latinos, every Latino, I don't care where you're from, they all know that Vicks Vapor Rub is what you use for everything and anything, you know? It's like, no, so it's that specificity and that authenticity is what makes people relate to you, even if that's not what their super cure is, you know? There is a super cure for them.
So has there ever been a time where you were told that your version of what a Latina was didn't fit something or wasn't right?
Absolutely.
Really?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've been in LA for a very long time. So absolutely, my version was not what they thought, but I was the Latina and they were not. So obviously, you know, it is what it is. You know, hopefully I don't work with those people again. That's all.
Oh, hopefully. Okay. And for you, like, for example, this movie is you voice acting. Now you've done stage, you've done television. What would you say is the main difference for you in this experience of lending your voice to a cartoon versus yourself fully?
Oh, I mean, I don't think they're, you know, one is not harder than the other, you know, one is not, you know, I don't prefer one over the other. I just think that here you're using one muscle, you know, with the voice, and it's your voice. You're conveying all of these emotions with your voice as opposed to, you know, using physicality, you know. So I think that's the only thing. And you don't have the scene partner in front of you, and, you know, you're kind of in a booth by yourself with the director and the, you know, producers and the engineer on the other end. It's really freeing. There's a lot of freedom in it, you know, because you can look any way you want. Nothing is too outrageous. You know, sometimes when you're doing live action, you're like, oh, that was a little over the top. There is no over the top for animation, because you're conveying so many emotions just right there. So there's just it's fun and it's freeing, but, you know, I'm excited by both of them.
Yeah, I voiced a character on a show that we built the character in the booth based on improvisation and based a lot on my mom and a Latina mom. And, you know, a couple weeks before the show came out, I realized I wasn't in the credits. And I was like, what the heck happened here? And I find out through like the grapevine that this character was a Latina character, and Latina, not person. I can't say exactly what she was, but apparently an executive was like, "This sounds offensive. This character sounds offensive to me." Needless to say, this executive wasn't Latino.
Yeah.
And that was really, really surprising to me, because I was under the impression of like, this is animated. These aren't even people. These are like literal monsters.
Yeah.
And trying to inject some type of cultural specificity to something that isn't even human, like it still was judged and taken away from something because of this perception of what was correct for people.
Yeah, it's fear because they don't want to get in trouble. You know what I mean? And they'd rather just say, get rid of it, as opposed to have a conversation and find out the truth. I mean, if you find it offensive and you're not Latino, then maybe you should ask some Latin people and see what they say, get their opinion. You know what I mean? But most of that is just fear. They don't want to get in trouble.
What do you think? I mean, I don't expect you to have the perfect solution, but how can we continue making these steps in representation in Hollywood? How have you done it? And what would you tell people that haven't really made it in the industry yet? How can you still be authentically yourself? Because it's frustrating, right? Because it's like, I want to represent this point of view. I want to represent what this is, what my identity is. But then simultaneously, you're confronted with a world that has a very specific view of what your identity needs to be.
Yeah.
How would you tell people to do it? Please help me.
Oh man. I think that it's one day at a time. It's one situation at a time.
I love that plug, by the way.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Well, it's not around anymore. So
yeah. Hey, you can still stream it.
Much of a plug, but I think I think you take each situation. I mean, certainly there have been times in my life and my career where it has felt that way. Like, how do you keep your authenticity? And certainly there were times in my early career that I tried to probably run away from my authentic self. I just think it's a process and it's a journey, and no one can really tell you what to do. You know, everybody's journey is different. The only thing you can do and is believe in what you're doing. If you're comfortable, always be comfortable with that role. I'm a person that has always stood up for myself and always said something, but that didn't always work for me. So that's why I'm not here to tell people to do that. It's like, it's one day at a time. It's one situation at a time. And it's what gives you peace at night and makes you happy. That's the only thing I could say. And you just have to be very true in what it is that you want, and be very clear with your intentions, and be brave, and just go out there every day, because you're going to get more no's and you're going to get yeses. But when those yeses come, they're so amazing. So you forget about the no's, and it's such an incredible career, actually. Even if you never do what you think you were supposed to do, or you think that you were going to do, it's like still incredible that every day you get to get up and you get to do this for a living, and you get to make a living, and you get to meet all these wonderful people and be a part of all these incredible projects, and just be your authentic self as an actor, as a person. You don't have to fit into a box and go into a corporate job. You should just be really grateful and thankful for all of that. Any success should be celebrated. First of all, nothing is too small either. I remember when I was coming up, I would be like, well, it's just a guest star. Well, it's just this. I'm not going to tell anybody. Well, it's just that. No, it all should be celebrated. It all should be, everything should be approached with enthusiasm, and that's a way to stay not jaded, because it can happen. Just be happy, enthusiastic, grateful, and still keep fighting the good fight.
Right. And you're mentioning some of these roles that you got, maybe smaller roles, guest roles, this, that, and the other. Has there ever been a role that you received that you were like, I don't know if I want to do this, and then it surprised you what you were able to do with it? What's an example?
Queen of the South.
Oh, Queen of the South, of course.
I didn't want to do it because I was like, I don't want to do something about narcos. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into that world. And I read the script and it was brilliant and it was really great. And they were three women that were anti-heroines. And I thought, okay. And I enjoyed my time on that show very much. And it was successful for 5 seasons. So yeah, Queen of the South.
I love that. And I love that you said anti-heroines.
Yeah.
Because it means that there's a complexity to the characters.
That's right. Alice Braga was an anti-heroine. My character, Veronica Falcon's character. So, you know, they had really strong women. And yeah, we were in the narco world, but we were the leaders and very complex characters. So I was surprised by that show.
I mean, I'm assuming that comparing that role to like, what was your first role that you received? And how, I mean, I'm imagining you were super excited for it, but what was that first role? Because just seeing that and seeing where you're at now must be really exciting.
I mean, I think, yes, I got a pilot, maybe my first pilot that I ever got. Mm-hmm. But I was fired from the pilot when it went to series. And it was like my first big job and then my first humongous, crazy disappointment. Mm-hmm. And I was only like 22 years old. So that one project showed me a lot. The ups and the downs immediately of Hollywood.
How you can go from like, oh my God, this is my dream to, and I mean, you know, you really made an amazing career for yourself. And I'm curious if you still feel sometimes like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to get a next thing.
Oh yeah. Everybody feels that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Brad Pitt and you feels like, or, you know, Jennifer Aniston, you know, but I do know that most of my colleagues that you know, they've had incredible, impressive careers, and we've been friends for years and years. We all feel that. We all feel like, what is the next job? I don't think I think what happens is when you get older and you've been around it a lot, it's not as life or death anymore. So that's a good thing. Like you settle down, you're not so anxious and so crazy about things. And so like, I have to. I mean, I haven't had that. I have to in like years. And I'm happy about that because it's super traumatic to be like, oh, I just need that role. I need it. So I think that's what happens is you kind of realize that what's yours is yours. And I know that you say it when you're younger, but you don't really feel it until you really believe it. And so I believe what's yours is yours. Not that I'm not going to like work hard for everything, but I'm also not going to beat myself up if that road doesn't go to me, because I know there's a lot of reasons. It's not just who the best actor is or there's so many reasons that go into somebody getting a role.
Yeah. That aren't how good you are.
That's what you think when you're young. You think it's all about, well, I'm better. I'm the better one. It doesn't really matter. It's how you fit into this world, you know, and you'll have something where you can show that off and just keep it moving. Like, you know, don't stay stagnant. Just keep moving.
When you were a little girl in Chicago, were you like, this is it? Like, I need to perform. This is sort of what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I don't remember, and people tell me, but I read my journals when I was little, and yes, I did. I just had no idea how to go about it. You know, I come from a working class family that migrated from Puerto Rico. I'm first generation, and you know, everybody worked in factories, and there wasn't art around me. So it was something where I had to find my community, just like in this movie, where they're finding their chosen family and their community. So I was lucky enough to find it when I was 18, 19 years old. And then it was, you know, after that, it was a done deal for me. Then I knew that I had to leave Chicago because although Chicago's a great city with a great theater, I wanted to do more than that. And that's when I went to New York and then ended up in LA.
When you were growing up, were you surrounded by people like you? Did you feel different, or you always felt like you fit in?
No, I mean, I think anybody who's an artist or an actor who doesn't come from an artistic family feels different, you know? So, I mean, you know, the thing they always told me was how dramatic I was. Oh, you're so dramatic, you know? So it finally paid off.
Perfect. Drama queens, you know, they book roles.
They told me that all the time growing up.
They become queens of the South.
So dramatic. Exactly. So but no, I wasn't surrounded by it at all. No, I mean, my family was about working and And there wasn't, I mean, no, art was not, art was something that I had to find. And I was lucky enough to grow up in a city like Chicago that had it all around.
And so, unfortunately, I have to wrap this up, but what can your fans take away from this new character, Z? What are you excited to show the world with this new role?
Oh, I'm excited to bring a new voice, a new character to this very incredible, diverse world. This very strong female character that is a warrior, that's adventurous, that's smart, that is an incredible asset and an incredible leader. And just I want people to just remember the theme that, the family is not just the family you're born into, it's also the family that you choose. And so these people are family. They're all different kind of mammals, but they all get along and they all want the same for everybody, equality and justice.
Look at that. That's the perfect map to the world we live in now.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Thank you so much, Justina. It really means a lot to talk to you. And I honestly can't wait to see all the other things that you do.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you so much. Good luck to you too.
Thank you. I need it. So thank you so much.
Good luck. Lots of luck.